Some people aren't just thirsty for water, they're thirsty to be seen without being shamed. And that's what makes this story unforgettable. There was a woman who came to a well in the middle of the day. And that detail matters, because most women in that culture came for water in the cooler parts of the day, usually morning or evening. But she came alone, at noon, in the heat. Why? Probably because it was quieter. Probably because fewer people would be there. Probably because when your life becomes the topic of other people's conversations, isolation starts to feel safer than community. And honestly, a lot of people still live like that. Not physically at a well, but emotionally. Avoiding spaces where they feel exposed. Managing their image. Carrying stories they wish no one knew. And if we're honest, shame has a way of making people disappear in plain sight. When she arrives, Jesus is already there, tired from the journey, sitting by the well. And then he does something completely unexpected. He speaks to her. That may not sound dramatic at first, but in that moment, it was radical. A Jewish man speaking publicly to a Samaritan woman that crossed multiple boundaries. Cultural boundaries, religious boundaries, gender boundaries. In other words, Jesus intentionally steps into a space most people would have avoided. And maybe that alone says something powerful. God is often willing to cross the lines people use to keep others at a distance. Jesus asks her for a drink, and she's surprised. Because when you've lived long enough being overlooked, judged, or quietly dismissed, simple kindness can feel almost suspicious. So she pushes back. Why are you talking to me? Why are you even engaging with me? And under that question is something deeper. Do you really see me? Or are you about to treat me like everyone else has? Then Jesus shifts the conversation. He tells her that if she knew who was speaking to her, she would ask him for living water. And at first, she doesn't understand. Because most people don't immediately recognize when God is speaking to the deeper thirst underneath their surface needs. She came for water, but Jesus came for her soul. And that's often how transformation begins. Not by addressing only what people ask for, but by touching what they actually need. Then comes the hardest moment in the story. Jesus tells her to go call her husband. And suddenly, the conversation gets personal. She answers, "I have no husband." And Jesus responds with stunning accuracy. He tells her she's had 5 husbands, and the man she's currently with is not her husband. Now here's what's powerful. Jesus exposes her reality without humiliating her. That's rare. Because most people either avoid truth entirely or use truth as a weapon. But Jesus does neither. He is honest without being cruel, clear without being condemning. And maybe that's one of the deepest things about God. He can tell the full truth about your life without withdrawing his love from you. That changes everything. At this point, the woman realizes she's dealing with someone different, someone who sees beyond appearances, beyond reputation, beyond performance. And the conversation starts shifting toward worship, identity, and what it means to truly know God. But then comes the breakthrough. Jesus reveals himself to her in a deeply personal way. And suddenly, the woman who came to the well carrying hidden shame becomes someone filled with urgency and hope. She leaves her water jar behind. That detail matters too, because it symbolizes that something inside her has shifted. The thing she came for is no longer the main thing. She runs back into town and starts telling people, "Come see a man who told me everything I ever did." Now think about how powerful that is. The very thing that once could have crushed her with shame becomes part of her testimony. The town she may have once avoided becomes the place she returns to with boldness. That's what happens when grace heals what shame once controlled. This story still matters because so many people are tired, not just physically, emotionally, spiritually, relationally. Tired of hiding, tired of pretending, tired of carrying old labels and old pain. And the woman at the well reminds us of something beautiful. Being fully known does not have to end in rejection. In fact, sometimes the very place you expect to be dismissed becomes the place where you are finally seen. She came for water. She left transformed. If this story hit home, like, share, and subscribe to Show Me Faith TV for more Bible stories retold for real life. Thank you for watching.